I specialize in a group of fossils called ostracods, and the common name is seed shrimp. They're kind of a crustacean, and the adults are about the size of a sand grain. They're very, very small. And they're very special in several different ways. One is because they do have a heavy calcite shell, they have an excellent fossil record that goes back nearly 500 million years. So anything that's been around that long and has evolved through time has got to be useful for something. The other factor is that they're not easy to disperse. In other words, certain types seem to be restricted to certain geographic areas. In other words, they can't pass deep water barriers. So that's one of the potential uses is if you find, say, the same shallow water species in areas that are separate now, it suggests the possibility that at one time they were together and have since come apart, or vice versa. If you find rocks of the same age right next to each other and they have totally different ostracod faunas, it suggests that they maybe evolved separately and then came together sometime later. Ones that I'm interested in are all marine, and they're between about 85 and 65 million years old. You could think of them as a clue into the way things were in the past. If we look at them, in certain ways they are a snapshot. If we're able to compare samples of the same age in different areas, we can see, well, these were evolving over here, these other ones were evolving in a different place. One of the really good examples is in North Africa. If you look in North Africa, the ostracod faunas in the late Cretaceous are very much different than in Europe, even though they were geographically very close. But there was a seaway that went through there, and even though it was narrow, it apparently was deep enough where they could not cross that. So they give us an idea about the distribution of landforms in the past, where were deep areas, where were shallow areas, and so on. The particular project I've been working on is about looking at the Caribbean region, because the Caribbean region tectonically is very, very complex, and there are many different models about how the region evolved geologically. So far, I've been to Cuba 3 times. I was in Jamaica twice, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Chiapas, southern Mexico, and Honduras. And so far, the samples I've gotten from Jamaica, from Cuba, and from Chiapas have turned out really interesting results. For example, of the 25 new species that were found in Jamaica, several of them are very similar to ones in southern Mexico. And a few of the other fossil groups suggest that also, that Jamaica was attached to southern Mexico at that time, and this was right at the end of the dinosaur age, about 66 million years ago. And then since then has drifted away to its present location roughly the last 45 or 50 million years. So so the ostracods, because of their similarity, suggest that that was the case. So it's pretty exciting to be able to not just to find new species and be able to describe new species, but actually use them to solve some kind of a geologic problem. That's the overall goal, at least in my research program. Petroleum Research Fund is really to try to stimulate student interest in the sciences. So it can be chemically related, anything that's loosely related to petroleum, and in this case it's not directly, but it's looking at tectonic evolution of a certain region, and that might in the future have some kind of implications about where oil and gas might be distributed, say around Mexico or Jamaica. Mainly the benefit was in 2 areas. One is to go to these countries and do the field work. That was the most important thing, to get the samples from the field and get them back here. And the other was to be able to hire the students. So essentially almost all the money went to those 2. Most of it went to the students, also some for the field work. I was not able to take any students to Cuba because it was against the law. They would have to be down there for at least a semester, and that was unfortunate because it's fantastic geology. But for a week in Jamaica, I took 2 students with me, and then for several days in Mexico. They had helped from the very beginning. I had some students, the geology students, that would help me out in the field, and then bring the samples back to the lab, wash the samples out. In some cases that took several washings, and to put them in ultrasonic cleaner and get them really nice. Try to get perfect specimens to publish, and picking the fossils too. Since these things, you can't see them really with the naked eye, you have to pick them out under a microscope. So and it's very labor intensive, so the students helped tremendously. Also had some geography majors who digitized some geologic maps. Had one student digitize the geologic map of Jamaica, It was really nice because we had different formations on different layers, so I could turn them on or off for publications or for talks. They also were able to plot the sample locations in a GIS database, and so that way I wasn't just eyeballing where the samples were, but they're very precisely located. So, and all that was all together about 4 years. Students were able to work for me, and so it was a tremendous help, and it was a lot of fun too. Part of what I'm working on right now is one of the next stages is to do the final taxonomic work on the ostracods from North America. We have some of the best preserved fossils, late Cretaceous fossils in the world. There's some world famous outcrops in North Mississippi and in southern Tennessee, and then there's some others down in eastern Alabama. And you go to the outcrop and they're full of marine fossils, and a lot of them are aragonite. They're mother of pearl, so they're beautiful, different iridescent colors and so on. So those ostracods, and when you collect those, they're almost perfect. A lot of them, they look like they died yesterday. So trying to solve some taxonomic problems, and then that will help us when we're looking at the global distribution of the different kinds of taxa, like different genera. We'll have a better idea what's in North America and what's not in North America. So we do that, then we can look at the global distribution of all the marine ostracods for that time interval, and see how well they correlate to present land masses. It's an iterative process where we can look at the distribution, look for anomalies, and go back and see, well, oh, these things, this group's not the same thing as this one here. We'll take a closer look at it. So it's continually sort of perfecting our worldview of the distribution of these animals through time.